Rarely did Fiona betray herself by becoming someone, detesting and testing her energy, belittling her as nothing but a shell of herself. Fiona grew honest, and the strength of resilience not to revenge became her brilliance, as she was determined not to become like those who preyed like leeches, sucking her of energy and hoping one day she'd just give up on herself. After years and endless days of strenuous mental setups, confused in their lies for proof and truth, Fiona only had lies to accept what was going on. A narcissistic mess of liars flipped all things instigated and evil onto her soft heart, which was a narcissistic treasure. Fiona was a playground for the narcissistic intrusion on her privacy, both mentally by telepathic ability and physically by car fumes and nuts on skin. Fiona tolerated years of mental abuse and told of things incomprehensibly sick to repeat, so she lost her memory, as they were shocked by her resilience, stating that she was an extremely tough woman, which gave them away. Owning up to all the traumatic instigated by narcissistic psychopathic plans. 24/7, Fiona was under devastation, as all she did was love and forgive while they gathered in savage groups. It was not that Fiona was tough, but extremely moralistic, and forgiving came to her easily, which had them stumped and had her in a spiritual tug-of-war. Spirit always won. Sadistic abuse had her feeling angry with unimaginable detest for herself, was found in her addictive behaviors, prioritizing others before her, as she continually asked if anything she did had to be approved, as she was stained in red from another's crime. Crime of narcissist lies. With her heart in constant shame, deflated and dependent on independency. It was not her fault, but years of her soft qualities were used and abused. Constant verbal abuse of who and how much she was hated. Hate after hate occupied her mind. Years of remorseful love ached in her, with shame reinforced by mocking, lies and body humiliation, and that she was fat, ugly, and a dumb, stupid bitch. Mental abuse of all kinds. Threats. Years of remorse with the world on her shoulders. She took in every blame as pain. And no one knew of the intensity of loneliness, as she spent years walking on eggshells while they trampled her near to the end. Desperate, Fiona was losing her life spiritually. It's more than passing in pain physically, but an emotionally drowned spirit took her into spirit's realm before she slipped away. May God be her judge.
Fiona admitted herself into a psychiatric ward called Upton, housing poor souls lost of healthy brain activity. Fiona admitted herself not because she was crazy, but in fear of her parents. In nervous anxiety and worried, grieving in an exhausted state of a heart crying out for the safety of her cat, as the narcissistic voices were telling her over the hospital's speakers that they raped her cat. While lying in a hospital bed thinking she was safe as they clumsily stitched in obvious contempt, Fiona heard muffled voices in clarification, as her hearing was better than the average person. Fiona had heard a male voice tell her to stay calm whatever happens, and other voices were full of devious comments. She was not safe. Fiona entered Upton, the nurses settled her in, and as it was dinner time, she rejected as she had lost her appetite in keeping to herself, away from people of all kinds, as her trust had been manipulated, corrupted, and brainwashed. But she still listened to the voices as they had followed her to the hospital. They said they were standing outside her window and coming from the speakers, but they had not realized there were cameras everywhere. This was a blessing for Fiona, as a 9-night-and-day construction of terrific narcissistic betrayal and installs of traumatic pursuits was about to exhaust her beyond her limits. The narcissists were ready. Fiona was not. Fiona told her story to a girl sharing her ward, to which Fiona was believed for the first time. But later on, she would demonstrate otherwise to Fiona. Fiona was alone in a government-funded hole, where people who heard voices were drugged and power restrictive. Fiona had organized herself as night had come, so did the dilemma, a woman over the speakers just loud enough for her ears only. The frequency was perfected to Fiona's hearing. The following event went on until 5 a.m. when they had tampered with the camera system to rid evidence of how Fiona reacted to their resistance to treat her calmly. After the ordeal, instead their attempts were reinforced with fear. 9 days of not showering followed these attempts to make her look crazy. Fiona was told if it's the last thing they do is to send her to what they named the funny farm, one of the worst and furthest away from her parents, making it hard for any visits. A psychiatric ward where they kept the worst and craziest in Grape was a normal part of life, and that Fiona had no chance. This threat hung over Fiona's head, threatening her every time she appeared normal. They used the funny farm as a threat if she didn't do what they said, often getting her to carry out strange things. One was to get Fiona to take her pants off and lay on the floor as there was a ward of men to come in to grape her. Fiona, terrified yet keeping calm in front of the cameras, pretended to exercise on the floor when the nurses came in. Fiona used Parkinson's and menopause as an excuse to her defense of nurses reporting her as crazy. May God be her judge.
Fiona found herself in a hopeless state of the mind, in fluctuating frequencies, confused from spoken grief which occupied her depression of a kaleidoscope existence. The gems were visible, but the patterns were mixed and disorganized, some polished and cut gems, some still in the rough. There was one thought current that broke the system, of geometrical, of a systematic infrastructure, of a mind manipulated in a hypnotic narcissistic betrayal, weighing hopeless sadness within her soul. Fiona found herself with a packet of sleeping pills, without sense and mental structure. Her mind was paused and preoccupied under narcissistic control. As she digested an overdose, she found herself on her bed, substantially low in breath, and a calm, restrictive, metamorphic body had left her with spiritual awareness. Fiona's breath became slower as she entered a state of panic. Only her spirit was left, and her spirit was capable. Listening to narcissistic intrusion, what sounded like a stadium of voices, laughter overtook the seriousness of her demoralized occupancy. Voices were mocking, hands were clapping, and vocals were yelling hateful messages when it was a time for peace. Although she couldn't move her mouth to make a verbal reply, she heard how she was hated, a new realization which she couldn't understand one thing. It wasn't the celebration of hate for her, but Fiona could not comprehend why they didn't have respect as she asked herself, why wouldn't they allow her to pass in peace? As the situation was of a morbid group mocking her, particularly when she was begging for her mother. As the panic came to a sudden halt, into an unconscious state of a broken-hearted attempt to leave, Fiona awoke hours later, unhurt physically, but emotionally broken with mental inadequacies. Yet her reaction was unusual. Forgiving narcissists of this paralytic situation, may God be her judge.
No longer will the vindictive, manipulative spite continue of a narcissistic group against the innocent lifestyle of Fiona. Fiona is to be set free in the safety of Australians and in every place she resides. Authorized by the highest court system and the best lawyers representing Fiona, Fiona is innocent of all narcissistic abuse, using and manipulating her family against her. Fiona is free to continue her life without the narcissistic intrusion. Intrusions include the following abuse to stop: fearful tactics, mental and physical trauma, attempted suicide, attempted murder, stolen accounts, hacking of phones and computers, blame, shaming her from instigators, causing depression and exhaustion, of spells and witchery, of denial and corruption, attempts to control and steal money or mail, involving others with threats of rape and obsession, stalking, interference by telepathic mocking, and listening to private thoughts, prayers, and dreams. Fiona has asked them continually to leave and has been disrespected.
The undermining of Fiona's character classifications include detrimental, abusive language and degrading the mind, body, and soul.
The following names are under serious investigation.
Fiona keeps to herself, and she is allowed to continue. Fiona has not broken any laws.
Fiona discloses these names to come under intense investigation. Rachel, Emma, Amanda, Elizabeth, Shelley, Ryan, Johnson, and Adam so far. Justice will be in favor of Fiona as she has kept to herself.
In honor of her beautiful nature, she is unfolding the truth, clearing her name.
Fiona is courageous and strong-willed. They have attempted to break her heart for their entertainment. Their judgment on Fiona is corrupt. Fiona is owed a massive amount of money, as these people have exposed and humiliated her in front of the world. Also, they are no longer to keep judgment of her money. Fiona's spending is her own, and all monies owing to her is legally hers. May God be her spiritual judgment.
Пусто внутри, будто выключен звук. Темнота на плечах, как тяжелый каблук. Свет вдали не зовет, там нет больше огня. Боль и тишина — это дом для меня. Я для всех, как всегда. Улыбка на лице, как маска из стекла. Шутки, смех, как спасательный круг. Только сердце молчит, замыкаясь на вдруг. Одиночество рядом, как тень за спиной. Я иду через ночь, оставаясь одной. Внутри холод и кнопки вверх не горят, а мечты, как афиши, сорваны и молчат. Пусто внутри, и не видно света вдали. Я стою на краю своей тихой земли. Боль и тишина — мой привычный маршрут. Я живу с этим